Hi. I graduated undergrad in May of 2022. I graduated with a STEM degree and had very, very, very little experience in art when I graduated. Now, a year later, I am devoting all my time to art and was even part of a little exhibition that included this piece. Getting to this point was filled with an incredible amount of stress. So to make things hopefully a little bit easier for everyone watching this video, I wanted to consolidate some of those thoughts and advice for y'all to take with you on your art journey. Full disclosure, I took 3 art classes in college. The first one was Intro to Sculpture, which was canceled halfway because of COVID, so didn't really learn much there, kind of unfortunate. I took Intro to Painting, which was virtual, and then I took Intro to Printmaking, which I took the spring semester of my senior year, I think. Yeah, I think so. Classes were very, very introductory. They only met once a week, pretty much bare minimum, since my school was very much not an art school. I'm hesitant to say that I didn't learn much in these classes, but yeah, I didn't really learn much. So when graduation came around, all I really had was a passion to start focusing on art. I didn't really have the skill set yet, but that kind of just fueled my last year. So I just wanted to share some of this stuff. Just as a little heads up, how fast you move through these phases that I'm calling them is definitely going to be dependent on how much effort you put into them, as well as how you choose to learn. Some learning methods are just inherently a little bit slower than others, but that's completely fine. It all just depends on how you learn. I personally learn a lot from watching other people make art. Watching seasoned artists move their pencil and create something just kind of clicks in my head for me. But someone like my partner really digs textbooks. I'm not joking. Really digs a good textbook, Just really depends. Everyone is different. Everyone learns at their own pace. You never know where people are in their art journey. Some people are starting, some people have been working on it for years. So don't try and go compare yourself to other people because it's never being done equally. So don't be hard on yourself. In addition to this, improvements are very rarely linear when it comes to art. Sometimes it takes a little bit to implement stuff that you've learned. Other times you learn something and it just clicks immediately and it makes a bunch of other stuff click too, and then you just have this burst of oh my god, this makes sense now. Just really be patient with yourself, so don't worry too much, just be patient. All right, so phase 1 is make things. I know you've probably seen a lot of videos that say the best way to improve your art is to make it, and it's just true. But also the best place to start is to start making stuff. I know it's easy to fall into the trap of I'm not going to start something until I know where I'm going, or I'm not going to do something until I know that I can do it right. And you're just going to need to let go of that a little bit here because the beginning is going to suck. It's going to be bad. And I'm not even saying that my phases are going to be foolproof for you. You might have to go find something else because this is just what I've learned. So anyone with a similar mentality to me is going to benefit from this, not everyone. Just the best way to do is to start. The best way to start is just to start. You are going to need to make a few things to figure out both where you're starting from and where it is that you want to go. Try not to follow tutorials, don't follow guides, and just make a lot of different things. There are a lot of artists that have their work online, so just kind of look. If you know what you want to do and you don't want to try a bunch of different stuff, because that's totally fair. I mean, you don't have to. Maybe just go out and look at a bunch of different artists and figure out the kind of stuff that people make, because before you kind of start to go into the art world, you just kind of have to see how vast the ocean is. There are a lot of different things and styles and methods that I didn't know existed, and once I found out that they did, I was like, whoa, that's so cool. And you just kind of have to go out there and start exploring. So definitely do that around this phase. If you don't know what you want to do yet, do a few landscapes, paint some flowers, draw one of your favorite TV characters or celebrities, do heads, do bodies, do animals. Try and do a little bit of everything, and it doesn't need to be fully fledged out. There are some things that you're just not gonna vibe with, just straight, and there will be some things that you just absolutely love. But yeah, just try and keep track of what these things are that you are having fun with. What are things that you're not having fun with? What are the stuff that you really like the way they look, but you don't think you can quite get there yet? And just remember that this is the phase of exploration, not decision making. I struggled with allowing myself to be in this stage for too long because I felt like I was wasting time and then I needed to hurry up and pick something so I could start improving. But I really wish that I had spent more time on this stage because I ended up just being influenced into wanting to do realism just because it's realism, And it took me ages to get the guts to just be nah, I'm just gonna go do something else. So definitely take your time and try out a bunch of different things. And then once you've tried out a bunch of stuff, once you've explored a little bit of that ocean, go to phase 2, which is identify what you like. Now that you've made a few things, you can probably get a feel for the things that you really like and what you really want to work on. I always recommend only doing things you enjoy and not forcing yourself to work on things you hate, at least at the beginning. In the beginning stages, it's going to be really important that you maintain that spark and that you keep it going, because it's going to be very, very important for you to have that spark still later on when you actually get to the more tedious and difficult part of practicing and learning art. At this point, when I was in my art journey, I knew that I wanted to do heads and the figures. So that is what I had identified in phase 2. I like the human body. I love expression. So that's kind of what I wanted to focus on. So yeah, I just took that and I went to phase 3, which is how to get to where you want to go. This is going to be a little dependent on what you chose in phase 2, but there are a few fundamentals that everyone is going to need to know before you start anything. It's going to be 1, shapes, both 2D and 3D. 2, how light works with these shapes. So you're going to look at the highlights, the shadows, all of the stuff, how light curves around objects. This is going to be very important. And then 3, basic perspective. So how can you get those shapes to move and how do they look in different orientations in space? This can all be worked on at home with a lamp and a few household objects with some still life studies. And if you can't keep a setup like that up for too long, just take a picture of it. You can also go online and find some free resources. I'll try to find some and put them down in the description. But yeah, so those are the 3 art fundamentals, like the very, very basics that you're just going to want to hit real quick, because they're going to be very, very important, because as artists, we are going to be working a lot with shapes that exist and figuring out the best way to transform that into the 2D world. After you've worked on these fundamentals, you're going to want to go look for the building blocks that make up what you want to work on. I'll put a list on the screen of what these different things may be, but if you wanted to work on like landscapes or settings, you may want to begin with going and studying perspective and light a little bit more, since this is what all environments depend on, and it's going to be pretty tough to get that light down. If you love abstract, definitely start looking at color theory and mark making, because that's going to be very important to know to be able to like evoke emotion and evoke message in an abstract form. Then you're going to want to go on phase 4, which is expand. I would definitely put learning color theory here in phase 4, since color is important to learn no matter what you're focusing on, but it is a little bit hard. After you've learned some of the fundamentals of your chosen study, you are going to want to reevaluate. At this point, you might want to expand your artistic field and go back to phase 1, 2, and 3 while focusing on a different area. For example, if you decide to do like first faces, but you know that ultimately you want to do like a person in an environment, since you did faces first, you're going to want to go back and do a little bit of environment drawings. The second time around, it's definitely going to be a little bit easier, since your foundation is with shapes and lights will transfer over and allow you to just grasp everything a little bit more quickly, and you'll be able to like have that eye now where you can see the different shapes in something and you can manipulate them and figuring out how it exists, you know? You may also want to decide that you don't want to go back and instead you want to go deeper. At this point, you can go harder into drawing fundamentals and kind of play with what you've chosen. So just do a lot more studies and stuff like that. This is also the phase where you're going to want to be pretty honest with yourself. There's going to be a fine line where you are going to need to be kind to yourself and proud of what you've been working on and how far you've come, but also honest enough with yourself that you can look at your work and be a little critical. You have to find those parts that need a little bit more attention and kind of be honest with yourself and be like, I wish that this would look a little bit better, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to study that. For example, my figures, my hands fucking suck. I draw really, really bad hands. So you just kind of have to force yourself down and like draw a bunch of hands. Be a little honest with yourself and don't be afraid to face the things that you're not good at, because that's just going to hold you back, you know? Once you decided what you need to focus on, just work on those a little bit before you go to phase 5, which is play with what you've learned. So this is going to be a little bit controversial because it's pretty early on in this little guide phase, whatever. Typically, people won't tell you to play with what you've learned until like the 5th time you've gone through phases 1 through 4, but I just think that's a little load of bullshit. I think as soon as you are starting to be a little happy with what your art looks like, I would say definitely go ahead and try and manipulate a lot of what you've learned and start maybe pushing the envelope a little bit, break some rules, you know? If you think something will look better a different way, go for it. If you're basing something off of real life and you wish real life was a little bit different and it looked a little bit different or was positioned in a different way, change it. Like, you have that ability. At this point, if it's not looking right to you, like it looks better in your head than it does when you actually put pen to paper, it's a sign to visit your art principles again. You'll definitely get to a place where your ambition is more than your ability, and it's going to be incredibly frustrating, but that's when you can begin to bridge that gap. When you want to make something and you can't, try and figure out what it is that's holding you back, and then go and study those. Find what's holding you back and then just smush it. And then phase 6, which is repeat as necessary. Everyone's journey is going to be different, but for a lot of people, this process is going to be filled with going back to different phases and just learning new things and applying it to what you already know. And just remember that art is supposed to be a good experience. It's not always a super happy one. You can make art, be sad while you're making that art, and it be a good experience for you overall. Do not be filling your time with doing things that you hate just because you feel like you're paying your dues and you have to do this and that. Like, you don't have to. Switch things up as often as you need. Just make sure that you are keeping track of exactly how uncomfortable or stressed out you are, and if it's too much, dial a little bit back. I know there's a little bit of a trope with romanticizing like working hard and just letting something swallow you whole, but just remember that that's not very sustainable and it's not very good for many people to do that. So don't. If you're not having a good time, go do something that's a good time. I hope you enjoyed this. I know this is just filled with a bunch of phases that have no real beginning or end, but that's kind of the point. I don't do great with complete breakdowns and being like, oh, study this, and this in this order, and you're gonna be great, because my brain doesn't work that way. If it works for you, great. If you need that step-by-step guide, that's completely fine. I'm just not the person to get it from. I hope you all have a good time, and let me know what y'all's art looks like. I'll tag my Instagram here if you guys want to tag me in any of your artwork. I'd love to see it. So yeah, just go out there, make some good art, and have a good time.